Today we're talking about angels and how you might have already met one and what you can do to earn your wings. Welcome to Snipe Life, where we talk about scripture, truth, and creativity. And today we're talking about angels. And there's a lot of really cool stuff to talk about here, and there's no way that I'm going to be able to do it in one video. But I want to break down as much as I can about angels and how they relate to us. This is the first in a brand new series that we're doing called Christian Misconceptions. And this is all about things that Christians just get wrong, or that pop culture has changed over the years. So angels is definitely one of these big things. For example, the first thing that we're going to talk about is, if you're a Christian, when you die, do you become an angel? And the answer is a flat no. The angels are spiritual beings. Now, the Bible talks about this all the time. There is a large difference between the spiritual beings of the world and us. Now, the Elohim, right? This word basically means spiritual beings. Often used to talk about God as well, because God is a spiritual being, but Elohim more broadly means spiritual beings. And so God has a lot of spiritual beings that he's created, just like he's created us. As we look at it in the creation narrative, we don't actually see a day when God creates the angels, but at some point he does, because the angels are created beings. They're not everlasting or infinite like God is. And they only exist, just like all of creation, to glorify God and to reflect his greatness. Now, the angels in particular are just one of these spiritual beings. There are several others that do different things within the kingdom of heaven and have appeared on earth for specific reasons. But we as humans are vastly different from angels. We are both physical and spiritual. And even when we die, that is not going to change. We don't become purely spiritual beings when we die. And the Bible talks about this pretty clearly. So let's look at some verses. You've probably often heard that after we die, at some point we'll get a new body. Philippians 3 talks specifically about this. In Philippians 3:21, it says specifically that Jesus is going to transform our lowly bodies into a body that's like his. And remember, this is being written in Philippians by Paul, and the understanding that Paul has already seen Christ's glorified body, right? So much so that it blinded him on the road to Damascus. And 1 John chapter 3 says something similar. It says, right now we are children of God, but in the future we're not quite sure what we will be. But we will be like Christ because we'll see him in his fullness. So there's this constant understanding that as we die, or after we die, at some point, we will be given a new body. So a new physical form. So we'll continue to be physical and spiritual as human beings, but we still won't become angels. Angels are very specific. So let's talk about them. The word angel actually means messenger. And so think about it this way. These specific spiritual beings are created by God in order to come to earth and share messages with his people, or to help his people in specific ways. We see angels all over the scripture, from Genesis to Revelation, actively participating in the events. Even in the New Testament, we see an angel wake up Peter from his prison cell and set him free. Now, there is much that we don't know about these spiritual beings. We don't really know what they look like, although they seem to have a general human form, and they may be able to change form slightly. There are many times when angels appear and people know instantly that this is something different, that this is an angel. So much so that generally when angels appear, they say the phrase, "Do not be afraid." This suggests that angels in some way have a appearance that would make you be fearful, or at least make you wonder what is in front of you to begin with. But at the same time, there are several angels in the scripture that have just been confused for humans. One of the most infamous stories from Genesis that I can think of about angels is the story of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah. These two angels show up to Lot, and he understands that they are different, and so he invites them into his house. The rest of the town sees that they're different as well, and wants to know them. Although throughout most of this scripture, the angels are referred to as men. So seemingly, these two would have looked like human beings, very closely to men. But as we see through the rest of the story, they are far from just regular men. They strike the men outside the door that want to know them with blindness, and then eventually they destroy Sodom and Gomorrah after getting Lot's family out. So if angels are messengers from God that basically look like humans, where do we get all these grand ideas of angels with white robes and halos and wings? Personally, I think that these ideas come from other spiritual beings within scripture. Things like the cherubim or seraphim. So let's talk about the cherubim for a second, because They're crazy. Now, to preface this, there is a debate around the world whether the cherubim in the scriptures are an actual spiritual being, or if the vision of the cherubim are just as a reflection of God's glory and attributes of him. Either way, I don't think it matters too much, but they do serve a purpose in scripture. We see cherubim in a few different places within the scripture. We first see them in the beginning of the book, in Genesis. As Adam and Eve are kicked out of the Garden of Eden, God places cherubim to protect the garden, to guard it from the humans trying to sneak back in. And then the most descriptive part of the Bible that we have for cherubim is in Ezekiel, one of the prophets. And before I get to the details of the cherubim, I'd love for you to consider liking this video. There's a thumbs up button below this video. If you go hit that, it would really help us out. The algorithm on YouTube takes those numbers and decides whether it's going to push it out to more people or less people. So you guys are in control of how well this video does. Thank you so much for your time. Let's continue. Now, when you think of cherubim or cherub, you might think of this. And to be honest, I don't know where this comes from at all, because this is not even remotely close to the description that we get in Ezekiel. So let me show you some pictures as I describe these things. In appearance, they were like humans, but each had 4 faces, and each of them had 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like a calf's foot. Their feet shone like burnished bronze. Under all 4 wings, they had human hands. Each of the 4 creatures had a human face, the face of a lion on the right, the face of an ox on the left, and the face of an eagle. Such were the faces. 2 wings of each creature spread out above, touching, and 2 wings covered its body. The appearance of the living creatures was like burning coals of fire, like the appearance of torches moving to and fro among the living creatures. The fire was bright, and out of the fire flashed lightning, and the living creatures moved forward and back like flashes of lightning. So as you can see from this description, this is like nothing that we've seen before. And I think that this description scares people, which is why it hasn't been a popular thing amongst Christians. It seems too much like mythology or something that we can't grasp our minds around. But this is scripture. But as you can see, many of the descriptive factors here are found in other versions of angels that humans have put together over the years. This is where we get the idea of wings, or that the angels would shine brightly. And I also believe that the idea of a halo comes from 2 separate things. In Ezekiel 10, we see that these cherubim are accompanied by wheels that follow them. And these wheels are also somehow alive. And so maybe that eventually got turned into a halo on top of their head. The second thing is that generally in old art of Christian iconography, we would see a halo type thing around the head of a person who is holy. And so since these angels might be considered holy, then they have a halo that is above their head to signify that. However, we don't really see this in scripture, at least not that I know of. There is so much to learn about other spiritual beings in the Bible, but this is outside the realm of angels themselves. Now, one of the smallest yet most impactful verses about angels for me is in Hebrews 13. The writer of Hebrews says this about angels: "Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers, for some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it." Now, this reaffirms some of what we've been talking about, that when angels appear, sometimes they can be confused as normal humans. So think about this. During your time on earth, you may have already met an angel in person and just confused them for somebody else. This to me just continues to confirm that I know very little about spiritual stuff. I don't have a lens to look through into the heavenly side of things. I can only look at the physical here and the glimpses that God gives me every now and then. And I cannot wait to have a fuller understanding of everything that God's created from the heavens and the earth. So I hope this helped you. I hope you got some value out of the video today. And if you did, it would really help if you hit that like button. And if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I hope you like this video, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.